Welcome to another episode of Inside Line. This time round, we're talking to a couple of guys who've taken part in an extraordinary bike journey, riding a Suzuki V-Strom 1000 from Peterborough in the UK all the way back to where the bike was built in Hamamatsu in Japan. A mere 16,254 miles. Chaps, let me introduce them. John Westlake and Hugo Wilson from Bike Magazine. Bit of a trip, man. In which pub, at what time of night did this idea get generated?
I think it was at the NEC in 2013.
Is this in a bar in the NEC?
It is quite likely that it was in a bar, or certainly whilst enjoying the after effects of the bar. So I think the V-Strom had just been announced, and we were chatting with Luke from Suzuki, and about things we could do. And you know, big adventure bike, you've got to ride it a long way. So it seemed completely logical and obvious.
At no point does it sound logical to ride all the way back to Japan, for God's sake.
Well, I can't remember what I think there were other options. We said, oh, we could ride to South Africa, we could do this, we could do that. But as soon as you went, oh, let's ride to Japan, to the factory, you go, oh yeah, let's do that.
Now that you've put it in that sort of context, it does sound like a good idea, doesn't it?
And I think at the time, I'm not sure I fancy it now, but riding through a massive swathe of Russia seemed like a good idea as well. You know, that was the place that a lot of adventure riding was starting to happen. So it sounded, you know, it's going to be a good story, isn't it?
Okay, so that's the evening well before you actually set off. How much planning was in? When did it actually get rubber stamped as something that was going to happen?
Well, I can't remember, Chris. I think we set off in June. Is off the top of my head.
2014.
2014.
On the new 2014 model.
That's right. Yeah, I think it was June, and we'd obviously been chatting about it, but I don't recall any great level of preparation, if I'm honest. I mean, you know, I know that the luggage wasn't available or the hard luggage wasn't available for the bike at the time or something.
You wanted the alloy luggage, didn't you?
That's right, yeah.
But instead had to go with
the plastic ones, which proved quite effective at keeping the bike damage-free when it fell over. But as far as I recall, there wasn't that much prep. There was some logistical stuff to do with...
Well, hang on a minute. What about routes? You don't just get a map or a sat-nav and tap in Hamamatsu and follow the instruction, do you? So, and visas, you know.
Okay, well, I think... But everything, you can do everything at a border. It just takes a while. I didn't have to go through that.
I was just about to add, actually, yes, you were probably not finding too much of a challenge because you only did the first section to Istanbul, didn't you?
That was one of the issues was, so the original idea was that we'd do it in 3 chunks. Yeah. With 3 riders, and that we'd break it up more effectively. But the big problem was that most of the more interesting countries, they want to put the registration marks and details of the vehicle in your passport, and they want you to leave with it. So in order to get round that, and that starts with Turkey, so we then had to break it down into smaller chunks, and it ended up with the fantastic Jamie doing the bulk of the riding through the difficult stuff.
Let's talk about the chunks. Chunk 1 was from Peterborough to Istanbul, wasn't it, in Turkey? Yeah. You then flew home to have Jamie Duncan replace you and ride the bike through. You described them as interesting. I'd describe them as, I don't know, massively challenging at times, nations. Through the stands, through Russia, all the way to South Korea.
Well, Vladivostok.
Okay. Where he would meet you.
Well, no, the
Vladivostok in Russia, in fact.
Yeah, so he'd go to Vladivostok.
Yep.
And then this is where it would start to go a bit wrong.
Yep. We'll come to that.
The idea was...
I think it went wrong at the NEC.
Well, it went wrong on various occasions. But this particular time it went wrong. He was meant to put it on the boat to South Korea. I was then going to fly to South Korea, do a bit of riding around South Korea, get on another boat with the bike to Japan, and then ride from the south of Japan up to Hamamatsu. So quite a short section, but it didn't quite work out like that because, well...
Right, you definitely had a number of challenges and difficulties, didn't you, during the trip? Had you planned them, or planned the trip in a bit more detail? I mean, you actually just planned the damn thing.
Well, we did.
Do you think you would have found, would those problems not have existed?
No, but then where's the story?
And also, I think Jamie's the expert. It's a shame Jamie's not here. He's on an adventure somewhere else. But you know, you can overplan easily. And you talk to a lot of adventure riders. If you overplan, because nothing goes to plan, even when you plan. You know, and so it was a kind of just an adopting a thing of, okay, so the bike hasn't arrived. It's still on a ship going somewhere else. I will have to make alternative plans and try and find it. And you know, for the magazine point of view, that was great because it was just funny that I'd flown somewhere and I was...
It's funny how things are very humorous in retrospect and hindsight, aren't they?
Well,
but at the time...
I mean, about the time I'd lost all my luggage, or Air France had lost my luggage, and, you know...
Let's come to your bit in due course. Let's be a bit chronological.
Yeah.
Right, you do Peterborough to Istanbul. You do 2,500 miles just over in something like 5 days.
Yeah.
A bit of a slog or fairly easy? I mean, all tarmac, I presume.
Well, I had to. It was a really good ride, but I did a slog through Germany. So I got the Rotterdam ferry, and then just belted down on the autoroutes to Switzerland. Stayed in Switzerland, and then I was going to go down through Croatia, but I was watching the news in Switzerland, and it basically was telling me that there was massive worse floods in Croatia in 40 years or something. So I changed the route and went down through Italy, and kind of completely overlooked how far it is from Switzerland to Rome. Arrived quite late in Rome, and then got a ferry, got the Brindisi ferry from the bottom of Italy, and with memorably snoring truck drivers in the truck drivers' lounge, and then came off at the other end in the morning. Is it Patras, the northern Greek put.
You were there, mate. Don't ask us.
I think it was Patras, but had one of those fantastic days riding where I put twisty route into sat-nav because I knew I'd basically got all day to get to somewhere near the Turkish border. And everyone was coming off the ferry, the trucks and the cars, and they all turned right. This was like 6 a.m, and the sat-nav told me to turn left. It's a bit weird. And so I turned left and just was immediately on the most fantastic little back roads and trails and stuff. It was just a really, really good day's riding.
Bit of off-roading then?
Bit of trails.
Stood on the pegs, trying a bit?
Yeah, big tracks, but yeah, off the pegs. A bit of that kind of panic of going, hang on, I'm in the middle of nowhere, I've got no petrol. That sort of stuff. A bit of those fantastic moments where you stop for lunch somewhere in the middle of nowhere and it's fantastic. Yeah, and then got down near the Turkish border, and then the thing with the getting their name stamped into the logbook. So Jamie flew out to Istanbul, but then he had to come back out and meet me at the border. So he had to cross into Greece, get on the back of the bike. Oh no, he rode the bike then through.
Did he have to enter Turkey then?
Yeah, he had to land in Turkey, then come out of Turkey to go into Greece, then take the bike back through and get it put into his passport. And then...
Was that an issue that you had expected?
Yeah,
or?
we'd anticipated that. Yeah, that's why it happened. But
that was a plan.
Yeah, we were aware of that.
That was on pint 3, wasn't it? Yeah. We might have to do this. I mean, sounds like you had a very enjoyable and quite memorable trip. Is it one of those trips that you are recalling now with quite a bit of pleasure?
Oh, yeah.
And you're taking yourself back?
Yeah, on 2 levels. One is that there's always that sense of kind of satisfaction afterwards when you've done really big days riding. You know, you
had a few 500 to 700 mile days, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So the ride down to Switzerland, I can't remember how far that is, but that's a good ride.
Yeah.
And then the one from Lucerne in Switzerland down to Rome, it's another big ride. And then I think I had a bit of time in Rome because I stayed with Mick Phillips.
Right.
And then...
did you start planning more?
Started planning more adventures in Rome. And I had a great experience actually coming on the ferry, the whole Rotterdam ferry, where there was a few bikes on it. And you know that thing where you have a chat and they go, where are you off to?
Going, yeah.
And I went, oh, I'm off to Istanbul. And they were like, oh, that's good. I said, bike's going to Japan. And that took some explaining, but yeah, no, it was a...
Did they feel slightly inadequate after you'd said that to them?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think there was...
I think I would have. I mean, Christ, to this day, I know you've done it and everything sort of was accomplished, but feel bloody chuffed with yourselves, I'll tell you. You know that.
And I'll tell you what I did feel as well. When I got to Istanbul, we did... I went down to the Bosphorus, you know, the Straits, and there's the bridge, and we did a photo with Chippy with the bridge, and I did feel really sort of sad that I wasn't going over the bridge and wasn't carrying on.
So Chippy's the photographer. Did you have him fly out, or did he accompany you?
No, he flew down with Jamie.
Got you.
Then they went up to the border,
Yeah.
met me at the border, and then we went into Istanbul.
Sure. Now, the bike presumably has sort of taken all this in its stride. I mean, you put... a tank bag on it, didn't you? Panniers, the slim panniers, crash bars, sat nav, taller screen, pretty much standard.
Yeah.
How was it? I mean, describe the virtues.
Really easy to ride, really straightforward, comfy. It was a really good bike for the trip, and it was, that kind of quite low, compact feel that the V-Strom's got was really good. You know, so. I guess maybe when Jamie was riding it in more challenging conditions, he might have wanted a slightly narrower front tyre. But no, for what I did on it, it was fantastic.
Good.
By the time I got it, Jamie had put a knobbly on. So
That's right.
He had, so at some point.
We'll come to that. You just wait your turn. I know you're gagging to talk to me about your Japanese adventure, and believe you me, it's good listening. Is there any way we can read about this journey? You know, I mean, it was in the magazine over about 6 issues. Can we get back issues? Is it online?
No.
I mean, that's a great shame. You know? I read it all last night, the whole chunk. And whilst I was very, very impressed with what you did, there was a few points, and we're going to come to those now, on Jamie's stint of the journey, where I just thought, man, rather you than me. It much easier to read than ride, I'd say.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Chris, what we'll do is, after this, we'll see whether we can do something with PDFs and work out how we can get them to people.
Yeah. Now we come to the most interesting stint. This is the one that covered about 12,500 miles over 4 months. Done by Jamie Duncan. Now, he's not with us now to tell us his part of the story. Explain why not.
Well, I mean, part of the joy of Jamie is that he obeys no rules and does not care in terms of the sort of the normal societal stuff we all obey. And so basically he's gone somewhere and we don't know where he is. So he could be continuing his adventure in Africa. We just don't know. We can't get hold of him. So that's why he's not here.
We can probably recall between us the sort of challenges he faced. Right, he's gone through more, can we call them hostile countries, or was it never that bad, do you think? It wasn't easy going, was it? Things like border crossings, terrain, weather. I mean, that stopped him on a couple of occasions, didn't it? I think on the Silk Road, the route, he went through all the stands, didn't he? Went into Russia, Mongolia, spent a hell of a lot of time in, and then into South Korea, where he was, or not?
No, with the idea was he'd get to Vladivostok.
I beg your pardon, yeah.
And then put the bike on a ferry, and then I'd pick it up. That was the plan.
Now, he's had a couple of issues with the bike as well. Unsurprising. He was putting the dirtiest fuel imaginable into it, wasn't he? I remember on one occasion in his piece, he said that he was absolutely on fumes in the middle of nowhere. And he asked these two guys if there was any petrol stations, and they sort of giggled and pointed to a cafe. Whereupon a lady produced plastic 5-litre sort of previously water bottles full of fuel that he tipped in, but it probably wasn't the best quality stuff. And I think that typified a lot of his journey. And the fuel filter got really clogged, didn't it? And put the fuel pump under strain. So that popped. He said in his piece that if he filled the tank, the gravity feed from the tank, just the weight of the fuel could feed it well enough to run. But when it got about half empty, if he didn't fill it again, it would cong. He had to wait about 5 days, I think, to get a new pump. I mean, were you part of that? You know, did he phone you, Houston, we've got a problem?
Yeah. So there were a couple of occasions where he'd phone, and if there was something that we could do at our end, we'd help him with that. I think there was another issue with tyres at one point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I can't remember exactly what that was, but I think it was just that the tyres that we'd arranged for him to be somewhere.
You'll find it have worn out. Well, and he was doing an awful lot of off-road stuff, wasn't he?
Yeah, there was some big trails.
And all credit to him. I mean, look, a V-Strom we know is capable, but it's no 250 enduro bike, is it? You know, and he's got a lot of weight on it as well. But he seemed to enjoy that.
Worth saying that he was a mechanic. You know, Jamie would not suggest that he was anything other than mechanically
inept.
Yeah, and so
we'll come to that. I mean, listen. One of the reasons the bike probably didn't run at its absolute best is because of that. I'm sure he didn't sort of treat it with much TLC. John, you said later when you picked it up, there were a few noises emanating from it. It was just the chain dragging on the floor, you know, because he simply didn't do maintenance, did he? I think he filled it, which is another sort of testament to the toughness and reliability of the bike. He filled it with fuel and just went.
Yeah.
He told a story, though. He was at altitude in Mongolia and he slipped off it eventually because it was really sandy terrain, and we all know how difficult that is, even on a 250 enduro bike. And he slips off, and he described it as just being in the place where other life just seemed to be non-existent, and the prospect of it was probably non-existent for hundreds of miles. I think he was on the Silk Road and he hadn't seen anything or anyone for about half a day anyway. And he falls over and he's wondering for a few minutes whether he can actually lift this thing and continue. I think in the end, you know how you develop the strength of 10 men. He whipped one of the panniers off, lifted it and got going. But it really did underline that sort of remote, far, far from any civilization sort of venues that he was and terrain he was riding through. Do you wish you'd have been able to do that, or are you very much glad that you didn't?
Oh, I'd love to.
I would love to. I mean, I think it was.
So why didn't you?
Because, I mean, again, it's Jamie's strength is that when we said, do you want to do it? He said, yeah, I'll just take 4 months off work. And that for me with family, you know, I was just kind of I felt constrained. I thought
the old excuse.
Well, exactly. But it is, you know,
yeah,
most of us.
I understand
it's exactly
logistically.
that.
Yeah.
You kind of think, well, yeah, but.
And you're right. I put it to you now. I give you all the resources, including time that you need to go and do it again from start to finish. You know, Suzuki's got a new V-Strom coming out next year.
I'm up for it.
Two of it, yeah. I mean, would you do the whole thing?
Yeah.
I mean, Jamie's he's massively inspirational about it.
Are we hatching a plan here?
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Be interesting to think about what the political situation was different then, and
sure.
in fact, that's one of the really interesting things about that kind of travel, isn't it? Is the way the political situations change and different routes become available. But my hunch would be that it'll all be fine. You know, if you were actually there.
Dodgy hunch, that, mate.
Well, yeah, but you know,
because you could do it the other way. You could take one from the factory and ride it here. You know, you think.
I don't know. The destination of Peterborough doesn't have quite the same ring to it, does it?
It's Hamamatsu, yeah. Fair enough.
I mean, he had hassle with border crossings, didn't he? You know, just finding fuel, food. Seemed to meet some of the nicest people on earth when he did bump into them. People couldn't stop themselves helping him if he did require any assistance. I mean, I'm envious. I would like to go there because. And I'm sure you saw this, and we'll come to you very soon, John. Different cultures are some of the most rewarding things to sort of witness and experience, aren't they, in travel? Travel's one of the best and rewarding and educating things to do, isn't it? Let's come to you. the start of your final leg to back to the factory, that didn't begin well, did it? You'd flown out.
Well, I'd flown from obviously UK to Seoul in South Korea, and we had a plan. And the plan was that I'd find my way to this port in South Korea where the boat was going to come in, blah, blah, blah. And then I was trying to remember exactly whether I got an email from Jamie, because he was emailing me about timings, because it was obviously I needed to arrive there to coordinate when the boat came in. And I think he emailed me while I was in the air saying, it's not going to be there. So I think that's right. I think I got in and opened my phone and then got the email of him saying, it's not where you are. It's for some reason, I can't remember why, but
so that was your landing gift then?
Yeah. So I landed, and Air France had lost all my luggage. So luckily, I had my lid in hand luggage. So I had a lid, a t-shirt, and some trousers. That was it.
That'll get you to Hammerback.
And I was kind of thinking, well, it's sort of warm, I'll be. And
so no protective jacket?
Absolutely none. So I arrived. So I got into Seoul, got Jamie's, and he also said, and I've taken the sat nav. So I think, right, okay, I was kind of banking on that to find my way around. So then I got a flight to Japan, because that's where the boat was going to. He'd sent it straight to Japan. I can't remember why. And so I mean,
you're speaking about this rather calmly now. Was it fraught? Were you fraught at the time? Was it?
At the moment, I'd sort of almost, as soon as my luggage hadn't turned up, which I was quite annoyed about. And then after that, I kind of thought, hey, no one's died. It'll be fine.
No one's died yet.
Okay, yeah. And I kind of thought, well, and because it was for the feature for the magazine,
there was a sense of purpose, wasn't there?
This is a story already, and I've just got to get on with it. And so I found out how to get to, the flights to Japan, and getting into Japan was really difficult because a bloke with a crash helmet, no hand luggage, nothing, just apart from a crash helmet and a t-shirt. And they say, well, why are you coming here? To pick up a bike. Where's the bike? I don't know. And so, so I had a load of problems, full strip search, because they thought it was some sort of drug thing. The lid was scanned. And eventually they worked out I was a harmless idiot and let me off.
It took them that long?
It was. I was there for probably 2 hours, being, good cop, bad cop.
How much grilling then from the bad cop?
Oh, loads. And they were doing that thing where I was thinking, I've seen this on telly. You're getting me to tell the story in backwards and forwards, and to and I was just sort of saying, this is going to be easy because I'm just going to tell the truth, And I say, who's Jamie? He's a bloke who's ridden across, and it was, you think,
it sounds believable, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Well, we're riding a V-Strom from Peterborough all the way back to Suzuki for a first service.
Well, the other thing is all the documents, because I thought if I'm stopped, I need to prove what's going on. And stupidly, I put it all in my luggage, which wasn't there. Yeah. So I had no proof. But anyway, but eventually I got to Japan and then got a taxi from the airport to the port.
Yeah.
And which I kind of thought might be like Grimsby, quite small.
Why did you think that?
I don't know.
No worse like Grimsby, mate.
I hadn't thought about it. But obviously the port was massive. And I had, Jamie did tell me what courier thing, what ferry service he'd used. So I had a name of a company. And so I just came to the gate and said, I'm looking for this company. And the bloke gave me a bicycle and said, get on this bicycle. And the port was, so I cycled for about 2 miles.
Was it like Felixstowe, just utterly
huge? It was
huge.
Yeah. And, the industry in Japan, you don't, obviously, they make a lot of motorbikes and a lot of cars, but until you see it, it's just, until, to the horizon of factories and things.
And somewhere there is your bike.
And so, so I cycle off and, eventually find this little hut, which with this name of this company on, and fortunately found a very beautiful woman called Titania.
Yeah, you made a point of mentioning her.
Yeah. Well, partly it was relief.
Is she still waiting for you?
Yeah, she undoubtedly, yeah. But she was great, and she said, no, I know where this boat is. And so...
in English?
Her English was pretty good, yeah.
Yep.
So that was relief. And so, and then it got surreal. It was just getting more and more surreal.
It got surreal then?
Oh, yeah, because then I was waiting and I could see the boat. And she said, you just have to wait here. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 hours while they disembark all the stuff. It was a cargo vessel. And the bike will be coming out. And I don't even think it was crated. I think anyway. So, but the first thing that came out was a circus. So giraffes came out. wolves.
Sorry, I thought you were using a satirical term there.
No.
An actual
circus right from Vladivostok. And so after watching giraffes, tigers, I was thinking, this is...
What, real animals?
Animals in boxes, yeah, coming off. And I was thinking, this is brilliant. And so I just sat there in the sunshine. It was a lovely day. I was, just sitting on a wall thinking, fantastic. And eventually a speedboat came off, and then the V-Strom was wheeled off.
Was that sort of almost disappointing to see the bike then?
No, I was overjoyed.
Were you in fact
I was
quite elated?
Overjoyed. And then it disappeared into a thing. And then basically I found it later on in a compound with the speedboat.
Yeah.
But no giraffes?
The giraffes had just gone. I don't know. They'd been just let loose. I don't know. They just scarfed.
No goodbye, nothing.
No. They were probably, well, no, I won't say it, but they were probably, dinner by then. I don't know. Yeah. But so I found the bike, and I can remember that feeling of just elation that I think this might actually work, because I'm kind of at the bike.
Was it game on again now?
Yeah.
Was it everything possible once more?
Because you was continually thinking it could all end up if the bike doesn't come off the boat and it's just somewhere in a corner of a massive ship.
I mean, on that note, for every participant, there must have been, there's a great sort of raison d'etre for the whole trip, but by the same token, at any point, a Dakar rider once said to me, at any point from minute 1 to the final minute, your Dakar can end. And similarly, something goes wrong with the bike, you crash, you get injured, it gets lost on the boat.
Yeah.
The story's sort of running the risk. Well, you're certainly not going to be able to tell the full story. When you were on the bike, did you have to bear all that in mind, or did you just get on with it?
Once I got the bike, and there was a kerfuffle with it, because again, it was the fact that I turned up with no luggage. It looked dodgy.
No,
I could see why. You think, who's this bloke who's just turned up from England carrying a crash helmet?
Yeah.
Think,
that's what he's telling us.
And then there was a thing Jamie had said. He said two things. He said, I've taken the sat-nav and the panniers are empty. Those are the two bits of information. One of them was correct because he had taken the sat-nav.
Why had he taken that?
I don't know. I think it was actually his, but I'd say, can you leave it on? Because that will be really useful to whiz around Japan. But anyway, it'd gone. So, and so when I saw it in the compound, there were 3 customs blokes, Japanese, and their English wasn't great, and obviously I spoke 2 or 3 words, hello, thanks, and so they were clearly saying what's in the panniers, and I was going, nothing, they're empty, nothing in there, and was sort of going, doing my best mime for absolutely nothing, and then so he said open them, so I opened the first one on the sort of the side stand side, and I obviously I was not au fait with the V-Strom pannier operation, so I just opened it and it just basically fell open and loads of just came out. Tools, underpants, t-shirts, cooking stoves, it all just clanged onto the floor. And so there was this silence of the bloke, he was sort of, and I was saying, so nothing apart from that, And then the other side, exactly the same, more of Jamie's basically stuff he didn't want to take home. So it was. Had
your believability suddenly altered then in their eyes?
Well, I think it helped because they sort of, I think they were forming the idea that maybe I was just a sort of hapless incompetent, and this confirmed. I didn't even know what was in my bike's panniers,
I mean, inside, are you having a good old giggle at this Monty Python sketch?
Yeah, by this stage. But by this stage, I was totally relaxed because I could see the bike. The bike was there. It was all in one piece. It had been Jamified, so it was dented and, looked as though it had been across Mongolia. Yeah. But it was clearly, and it worked. I'd started it up. The key was in it. There were so many good things. Yeah. So I was just kind of excited and thinking, I can talk with these guys for 3 hours, don't care.
They will come around to my way of thinking.
Exactly. You think, well, and also that I knew, because Titania, the gorgeous lady, had said that they want it cleared out. So they wanted to get rid of that out of their compound along with the speedboat, So I was kind of thinking, eventually they'll just kick me out, and which is what happened. They just said go. Yeah. And so I just got on, in the t-shirt that I've been wearing for,
No, right, okay. So you've still got 800 miles to go, haven't you?
Yeah.
What are you going to do for clothing then?
Well, At that point, I didn't even think about that. I just thought, I'm just going to, no, I can't, it was boiling, you know, it was August or when, was it August then? It was maybe later. But anyway,
Skin doesn't get torn off in a crash when it's hot, does it?
No, exactly. And so I just thought, just get out of here, get on the road, and then you can sort that problem out later on. And I kind of thought, you know, it's Japan. There's going to be a RS Taichi shop somewhere. I can stop and buy a leather jacket, you know. That was my plan. And so, yeah, I just set off. And then about 5 miles down the road, once the giddiness had subsided, I stopped. And because the bike was making loads of quite bad noises. And I just thought I wanted to check the oil and just do the things I should have done straight away. And it was basically all that Jamie, I don't think he'd adjusted the chain at all in true Jamie fashion. The fluids were all correct.
By luck, rather.
Well, no, I think he's quite good at doing that. I think so he'd obviously topped up the oil and the coolant was there and everything it was sort of fundamentally safe apart from, sort of bolts on the crash bars were loose. So I sort of went around and just sort of, but the caliber bolts were fine, so the safety stuff was okay. It was just the chain was literally, I've never seen it, the chain would literally, a washing line kind of thing. Then once that was done, the V-Strom felt, and the tyres were knackered, but it felt amazingly tight considering what I'd been through.
Had he put the off-road boots on by then?
Yeah, so it had these very worn, I can't remember what they were, but they were full on off-road.
So not cornering at its finest then?
No, and when it got wet. And also the rear was really flattened off. Yeah, it was kind of, so it could almost, you could balance at traffic lights quite easily because it was just flat. But again, I was going to think, well, it's not a race. I'll just, I'm just here to get there and I'll just poodle along.
So happiness factor in.
Oh, off the charts. Off the charts. And also, I was kind of getting the idea of, the whole circus thing and the cycling around a port. It was just, and then you go out and I had no idea where I was. And I was riding along thinking, I don't know where I am because you can't read any of the road signs. Because in Tokyo, they started putting, the English words on. So you were, and the rest of the country, you're just at a loss. And the sat-nav, obviously it didn't have a sat-nav, but I downloaded an app in Korea and it just didn't really work very well. So I spent the whole time kind of lost.
Bit frustrating, surely.
No, I tell you
what.
Still
in that good mood.
I tell you what, because the weather was good, the bike was working. I was kind of on a high, and I just thought, well, I know I've got to go north because I know Hamamatsu's north, and so I just sort of almost, just kind of, well, I'll go up that way, and just went off that way.
Okay, John, from your written piece, you definitely found Japan to be a very interesting and fascinating place. Tell us more.
Well, yeah, it's by far and away the most alien place I've ever been to, just because almost everything you know about life is different. So, for a start, you don't know where you are because none of the signs you can read. So, and then just eating is because you go in, you can't read what anything is, obviously. But a lot of the restaurants, even quite the kind of expensive ones, have plastic menus with pictures on. But even with the pictures, you look at them and you think, nope, I still don't know what that is. So you end up, almost every aspect of your life is sort of an experiment.
Is it a land of total mystery almost?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And you just think, right, okay, great. And once you get into it, you just think, well, I'll have some of that. And you turns up. And even after eating it, you think, no, I'm still not really sure what that was. And you think, could be chicken, could be pork. I'm not, and delicious, but no idea.
I mean, was it frustrating though? Did it become frustrating at any point? Just getting through life seems like a massive challenge.
Being lost when I started to get closer to Hamamatsu and I was meeting some of the guys from Suzuki, so I had deadlines, because being lost is fine if you've got no deadline. You just think, oh, whatever, I'll just mosey along here and find somewhere to sleep. And it wasn't like what Jamie was doing because he was hardcore. There were it's civilized. It's a civilized, so you can always find somewhere to sleep. It's kind of all the traffic's easy and it's just, so it's not a difficult place. It's just.
What about the volume of traffic? Because it's a massively densely populated nation, isn't it? I mean, is it just wall-to-wall traffic?
That's probably actually the one area of frustration was that I'd look at a map and I'd see a wiggly road by a river, one where if you saw it in Europe, you'd think, oh, but that's a bit tasty. And you'd go there and it would be a 40-mile-an-hour limit all the way and there'd be people driving it and they obey all the rules. The Japanese drivers, if it says 40, they'll be doing 40 on the nose, And most of it's built up, and they haven't invented roundabouts. So it's just traffic light-tastic, the whole thing. So you see this gorgeous, which would be gorgeous, and it's just stop, start, stop, start, stop. And it was only, I only probably had 1 or 2 days good riding, because I just couldn't tell from the map what will be good and what will be bad,
So, I mean, a GSX-R 1000 in Japan, waste of time?
Well, actually, no. I mean, I think if you know where to go, because I met up with a Japanese photographer, and we were going to do some shots for the magazine around Mount Fuji. And there's a road, for instance, going up Mount Fuji where I think it's called the Skyline Avenue or something. And so it's where the car was named after, So, and there's this beautiful kind of, fantastic Alpine style road. And that was, that was by far and away the best road. And the photographer saying you just have to know where to go, because it's a mountainous country. The spine of the country is hardly anyone lives there, because it's just mountains. So, and there are some fantastic passes, but I didn't know about them because I didn't have the sat nav.
How much pressure were you under in terms of time then? I mean, were you having to do 12-hour days or not?
No, I did one long day, nothing like Hugo did or Jamie did, because I didn't have that far to go, and I only did 800 miles because I kind of got lost a lot. I probably, as a crow flies, it's probably only 500 miles. So, it was only the final day where I had to meet Haruki from Suzuki, who was going to guide me to the factory, that I had a deadline. And so then I think, when I was riding through Tokyo, and then a typhoon hit, which obviously I didn't know about because I couldn't listen to the news. So I was riding along thinking, seems a bit rainy. And, there were apparently loads of warnings saying, don't go out. And I was thinking,
seems a bit rainy.
Exactly. Quite breezy, and it was a proper typhoon in it.
So a massive wind as well as...
Yeah, it was quite dicey.
V-Strom all right?
The V-Strom was rock solid. I think,
it had square tyres.
It had square tyres, no big fairing. And actually, and no, just panniers. It wasn't masses of luggage. Oh, obviously, I didn't have anything.
Still having fun, though?
Oh, yeah. And again, it was just an adventure. I just
What about the clothing that you'd obviously sorted by then?
Yeah, I'd stopped. I eventually found... because it's not like nothing's like over here, to find a motorcycle stop, you have to find the motorcycle area, which is never on a big road. So eventually it was the Japanese photographer who said you need to go to a certain place, and we went down this kind of back streets, and suddenly there's just, loads of accessory shops. Yeah. And then I bought a leather jacket and some waterproofs, because he said it's going to be rainy.
Sure.
He didn't mention the typhoon, but anyway. So I did as I was told. So I was sort of fairly kitted up, and it was warm. The thing is, the typhoon. Yeah,
warm rain.
Exactly, it's sort of tropical storm kind of thing. Yeah. So it wasn't, it was sort of.
Tell me about the Japanese. I mean, you've hinted that they were very helpful. Couldn't do enough for you on occasion.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost everyone I met took instant pity on me because I was clearly floundering in such a massive way, and I was lost the whole time. I was lost, so I was forever stopping and sort of turning the map. I had a map, but it only showed the major roads, and I wasn't on them, and the sat nav was useless. My downloaded thing was just rubbish. So I was continually by the side of the road, just sort of doing this, looking like a Burke, and people would come up and say, what I guessed was, where are you trying to go? And so I'd point on the map, and they'd say, well, go down, And then, I think I put it in the story. I'd stopped once, and it was dark, and I couldn't find this little traditional place I'd found in one of the books I had that I wanted to stay at. I just couldn't find it, and I was just sort of riding around. And this fella came up dressed in his, sort of suit, and carrying his briefcase, obviously walking back from work, and it was about 7:30. And we sort of had this mime conversation of me being lost, and I showed him the name of this place in the book, saying I was trying to get here. I think it's somewhere here, and he just ran off, and I was thinking, okay, slightly odd. I wonder why is he running off? But he had positive vibes, so I thought, well, I'll wait, just see if. And he came back, and he'd been home to his flat, and he printed out a Google Maps map, and then he got a highlighter pen. And come back and give me, and that happened. That sort of thing happened all the time, And I think it's just kind of most people are really decent, And if they see someone who needs some help, give them some help.
Now, one point where I started chuckling, you were saying things were not as they might seem over here or anywhere else in the sort of Western world by the sound of it. You wanted a hotel and you found one, but it turned out to be a slightly different place than you wanted.
Yeah, well, this was the sat-nav's fault. So my downloaded app, when I was going towards Tokyo, and it was getting very, very, obviously Tokyo's huge, sprawling, you know, kind of like the middle of the M25, just everything is just urban. And so my little rough guidebook had no recommended places. So I tried my sat-nav app. I said, you know, find me nearest hotel, because it was kind of late and the typhoon had hit. So I was soaked, not cold, but just soaked, you know. And I thought, I've had enough of this. I'm just going to pay for a hotel. I don't care what it costs. I'm done. And so I pressed go to find nearest hotel.
What had you previously done for payment? Sold your body or something? I don't understand.
What do you mean?
You just said, sorry, I'm going to pay for a hotel.
Well, I've been trying to stay in like a traditional B&Bs.
With you.
So you turn up and there'll be a kind of...
So you got to the anywhere will do. Just get me...
I just thought I'll get
a
Best Western or whatever. I don't care about traditional Japanese. I just want somewhere that's dry, you know. And so I pressed this button and the sat-nav took me, and it was taking me out in the middle of nowhere. It was just this sprawl of warehouses. And then I saw this neon sign, which I'm guessing said hotel. So, and it sort of went up there, and I went in there and I was drenched and carrying a crash helmet. And I sort of trudged in and asked for, you know, one room, kind of, you know, I thought they'd get the gist. They're a hotel, they'd maybe speak a bit of English. And there was some confusion, which I didn't understand what she was on about. And then there was a list of prices up on the board. And I thought, that's very reasonable for, you know, because it seemed like quite a nice place. And I was looking down and I was saying, could I have one of those? And she sort of made some face. And so I sort of got wind that nothing all was not as it seemed, but I was dozy and I just kind of didn't cotton on. And eventually, anyway, obviously, it was a knocking shop. And, it was, and so it was just, which they call them love hotels in Japan, which I hadn't known about.
And what were the rates again?
They were very reasonable, Chris. You would have loved it. Yeah, and obviously the bemusement was I turned up on my own.
Yeah.
And then she was...
For a bit of self-love.
And I presume the conversation, because she was talking at me, which I didn't understand, but I'm presuming she was trying to sort out someone to, you know, make my stay more pleasurable. But I didn't know that. I thought she was explaining something about the room rates. But anyway, so in the end...
You've got no idea how many people you amused in Japan throughout this trip, man.
Well, it was a sort of pinballing around being an idiot.
Right, let's come to the massive bit now. Your arrival at the Suzuki factory.
Yeah. Well, what...
You were hailed as an absolute hero, weren't you?
Well, yeah, because none of this we'd planned. So Hugo and I and Jamie, we said to the guys at Suzuki, we're going to turn up at the factory, and I'd wanted to have a tour of a production line and actually see the bikes being made, you know, and just do a bit of a feature for the magazine there. So that's what I had in mind, and I kind of thought it would be like when you turn up at Triumph or whatever. You go to reception, they go, oh, yeah, find your way up, and someone comes and picks you up and takes you off. That's what I thought would happen. And then Haruki, who works in Suzuki's, I think he's boss of their marketing department in Japan, he wanted to meet me to go for a ride to show me where the test riders ride.
Yep.
Which was great. I thought, yeah, fine, you know. So we went for a little ride, and then he started getting all funny about the time we go to the factory, but by then I was just ignoring it.
Had you any inkling?
Absolutely none. I had no inkling of what was going to happen. But he was just sort of saying, we must arrive there at 9 o'clock. And I was saying, well, we'll get there easily. He said, no, but not before. But by then I was kind of thinking, well, Japan's mad. And this is some sort of other Japan thing where you can't arrive early as well as not arriving late. You have to arrive on the dot. And so anyway, we rolled around the corner at 9 o'clock in the morning exactly. And the entire factory, the whole motorcycle manufacturing factory, all the R&D, all the sales, all the market, they'd all come out.
How many? Hundreds?
Hundreds. I think there was nearly 300, Haruki said. So all the staff from the Hamamatsu factory had come out, and they had banners saying hooray for bike, and you know, and they obviously thought I'd ridden all the way.
Mm. Now, did you feel a bit fraudulent?
Totally.
Did you try to explain?
Yeah, I was saying, because Haruki knew that I hadn't, because his English was very good. But he just kept saying, it's okay, just
milk it.
Yeah, exactly. So I did try, and so there were very senior engineers who designed the V-Strom coming up, and they were really excited because their new bike had made it all the way across halfway around the world and done all the, managed to survive all this stuff. So they were genuinely excited, and they were genuinely excited to meet me, So I was sort of saying, yeah, but I didn't actually do the difficult bit. I've just come from up the road. But because of the language problem, and in the end, I sort of gave up and went, yeah, it was tough, Because I thought, well, it made them happy.
Fatigue.
Exactly, it just made them happy. And Haruki was just saying, just say it. I'm saying you've done it all, but you've got, which was fine. But then, I can't remember if I put this in the piece actually, but they took me in and they got all the senior engineers, and there was also one of them was Sahara-san, who went on to run their MotoGP campaign. So real high level. And they sat down and it was a proper meeting, and with about 10 of them, and they said, Westlake-san, tell us how the V-Strom coped with Mongolia. And so by then, I'd only had emails with Jamie. So all I knew, I didn't even know the shock had broken, and he'd replaced it because I was traveling and doing things when...
Did the guy asking you the question know that?
No,
right? Okay.
Because they thought I'd ridden across, and so I sort of winged it and just kind of said, yeah, it was really good. And they obviously thought, God, this is amazing. Our bikes come all the way across, and the bloke hasn't got anything to say about it.
I just wondered if he'd known a shock and a fuel pump had been dispatched to you.
No, because Jamie hadn't written his story yet.
Yeah, of course. But somebody in Japan has sent some bits to Mongolia for this bike.
Well, no, because they came via Hugo in the UK.
I beg your pardon, right?
So the factory knew nothing of, so hence their interest. So yeah, it was all, as you say, there was a bit of shame thinking, I hadn't done the difficult bit, but
Now, I presume that was pretty much the end of it and you were just going to fly home. Was there any sort of, though there must have been a fantastic sense of achievement having, reached the target and getting just treated like an absolute god, did you start to deflate a bit after that? Because let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I was really sad to leave the V-Strom because apart from anything else, it looked... just fantastic because it just looked battle worn. It had done something no other V-Strom at that point had ever done. Yeah. And I'd enjoyed riding it. It was okay on the chunky tyres, but it was fine. It was lovely, and it had sort of looked after me. And so, and also I wanted to go and explore Japan. It was one of those ones where, so it was a real, I was gutted. I thought, I'd really love to stay here, But they wanted to take the bike away, and all the engineers, they wanted to basically strip it and look at it and, measure it or whatever they're going to do to it. And then they just put me on a bullet train and sent me off to the airport.
How did you feel at the end of your stint in Istanbul, Hugo? Well, were you a bit deflated?
Yeah, I would have liked to have carried on, that thing of looking across the Bosphorus and thinking, there's a whole load more miles to do and it'd be great to keep going.
Yeah, Jamie said in his piece, actually, you could tell that he was starting to feel down as his journey came to a close and he started considering what he was about to go back to and all the sort of routine and normality. He started to feel a bit cheesed off.
Well, it wasn't long before he started thinking about doing another trip. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds as though he's addicted to travelling, bike travelling. What about the sort of highs and lows of your stint that you can recall?
Oh, well, the whole of my, I mean, the low point, I suppose, or the most, there was a bit, because I'd got time to kill in Greece and the roads were fantastic and I was having a great time. There was a bit where I suddenly realised that I was in the middle of nowhere and the sat-nav was telling me to go up what was basically a dirt track. And the fuel gauge was empty. It's that one. And then, so you're riding along, trying to keep this, trying to ride for economy and that's right. I got finally, after, fuel gauge empty for like 40 miles, really twisty track, came down into a village and arrived at a petrol station just as the bloke's locking the door to his little cabin. And just sort of smiled at me and waved and walked off. And I'm like,
why do you think I've pulled up here, mate?
Yeah, exactly. And I can't remember what I did then. I think I went for lunch, actually.
You adopted the Greek custom
exactly.
of not giving a damn and starting to eat.
Yeah, I thought at least there's a petrol station. It'll open sometime.
Yeah. If you didn't have the laws, though, if it wasn't tough and you didn't have difficulty and you weren't down from time to time, there would be no story, would there? It would be just dull. That's the whole point, as you've said about these stories, to challenge yourself, to get over these little mountains that seem to get plonked before you at no notice.
I think in my bit, there weren't, I mean, I'm trying to remember whether I actually, because it was all so exciting. And, and it was only, 10 days, of it wasn't that long. There weren't any times where, there were times I was slightly hacked off with a sat-nav because it just, kept being a pain. But for the most part, it was loads of challenges, but they were you just think, right, okay, fine, here we go. It's quite windy. And then you find out later that it's basically a hurricane, and...
Do you think you could have gone for at least another 10, 20, 30 days without the novelty wearing off?
If anyone, watching this has got the opportunity to go and ride in Japan, because one of the guys I work with on the magazine, he, based on my conversations with him, went off, one of the riding instructor blokes who used to do a column, went off to Japan and spent 3 weeks. I was so jealous, and hired a bike and rode round. Yeah, and if you go in, when's the time? I think it's spring when the blossom comes out, and you get to see these, and it's just...
Is it number one on your list of places to go, though?
Oh, yeah. I think for me, because I'm not like Jamie. Jamie's kind of just inherently brave, and so the whole Mongolia thing, it sort of appeals, but I know that if it's cold and I'm running out of fuel and I'm worried about whether I'm going to get mugged and whatever, I wouldn't enjoy it in the way that he just seems to just sail through it. Whereas Japan is totally civilized, there are petrol stations everywhere. You're not going to...
What's the driving like in Japan? Is it super courteous?
Yeah, I spent 2 days before I discovered that there are toll roads, which sounds stupid because I was kind of trying to find windy roads. And I was thinking, how does anyone get anywhere? And then they all just use toll roads. And the driving there goes, so on the little roads, they all do 40 miles an hour, on roads that over here we'd be doing, unlimited, you'd be whizzing along at 80 or whatever. But no one does that, absolutely no one. Whereas the toll roads, they tank down those 90, 100 mile an hour.
Sure.
Even when it was, there was people aquaplaning and stuff, and it was quite dodgy, they slowed down a bit.
So there is an element of craziness and risk-taking.
That was in Tokyo. I think, like any big city, it seems to be where, you kind of, the other rules don't apply. And so, riding through Tokyo was, it's just like riding through London or Rome or anywhere big, it's just kind of, it's a bit of a maelstrom. But it was just the civil engineering, because it's all mountains, so you get flyovers like you've never seen, proper Blade Runner style stacked motorways. I think I put it in there. There was one bit where I was riding along and the traffic was really slow because of the rain and the wind. And I looked in, and I must have been looking in at apartments that were maybe 10 stories high, because you're on this weird floating road. It's kind of like, Spaghetti Junction, but layered on top of layers. And so there's loads of that.
So sum up your trip in just a few words then, talking about, your experiences and the bike.
I think with Japan, the V-Strom was the kind of the tool, and perfect tool really, because it was kind of, it just did what it does. And so I didn't really have to think or worry about the bike at all. And if I had better tyres on, I would have enjoyed the twisty roads. As it was all a bit kind of nerve-wracking. But it's probably one of the most special experiences of my life, I guess, and my career.
So does that fit very high up on the list of
massively high
biking sort of experiences?
Yeah,
right?
because of just the alien nature of feeling, of coming back, and Hugo was saying it's a week, and I came back and it felt like a lot longer, because you're being challenged the whole time of well, where am I? What do I eat? Where do I stay? Why is there no bed in my you go into somewhere to stay the night, there's just a rush mat. You sort of thing. Or I went out to a posh restaurant. The photographers took me to a posh restaurant, and there's no chairs. And being a sort of Westerner who hasn't stretched in doing cross country in 1804, I couldn't maintain a cross-legged seat long enough. And I had to go and get cushions and stuff, because otherwise I was going, oh, my legs, I can't sit here. So everything.
So it was novel from absolute first minute of the day.
Every single minute, you're just going, this is bonkers, you know, which is, you know, it's just astonishing. Yeah.
Hugo, sum yours up. Your stint to Istanbul, was it sort of much more conventional by comparison? Yeah. Still very enjoyable.
Oh, really enjoyable. Really enjoyable. Yeah. So for me, that thing of crossing the border into Turkey, because you know, I've done autobahns in Germany, I've done Alpine passes, and I've done down through Italy, and I've done Greece. But crossing the border into Turkey, where you feel like you're getting into new territory, and there are new challenges, and I guess sitting with Jamie in the mosque, not in the mosque, in the central area in Istanbul, and smoking a hookah was pretty good. You know, I mean, that whole vibe of being somewhere different, and that's why looking across the Bosphorus and going, oh, I'd really like to be carrying on, was so significant, I think. And it's that, going back to the stuff about planning, that thing about not having too fixed a plan. I knew when I had to be at the border, and that was it. There was nothing in between. So my original plan to get, you know, when things change, you're able to go, oh, well, I'll just go down through Italy instead. That was really nice.
What was that ferry like, by the way, from Brindisi over to Greece?
Straightforward. I wish I'd paid for a cabin so I didn't have to sit with the snoring truck drivers. But yeah, it's really straightforward. There's a couple of places. There's a couple of places down the coast that you can get it from Italy to Greece, depending on how far down the heel of Italy you want to go. But really straightforward.
So the question is, would you like to do it again? Could you do the whole thing again?
Yeah, for me, if I had 4 or 5 months, yeah, love to. And I don't know, because I'm not Jamie. You know, I don't know how I'd manage the stuff he managed. You know, so it could be that actually I regret the tough stuff, because I'm kind of, I've never done that sort of ride across Mongolia thing before. But that's part of the reason I'd like to give it a go. The bit I loved was the whole thing of just setting off and going that way, and thinking, well, I haven't got to do 200 or 400 miles today. I've just got to see where I go.
Get a bit closer.
And get a bit closer. And then I'll just pitch up somewhere and it'll all work itself out. You know, and just living your life like that. I can totally see why Jamie loves that way of just traveling.
New day.
New day. You wake up, you think, okay, I wonder who I'm going to meet today. Yeah. I'm just going to head that way, and you come across things. Yeah, so yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd definitely love to go back to Japan and kind of give it the time it deserves. You spend 3 weeks or a month in Japan, and when you could travel around. I know that's only the one island. Obviously, there's other islands. In fact, just talking about it with you is just kind of reinvigorate thinking. I very much
enjoyed hearing you recall it. I'd like to get on a plane to Japan tomorrow. Yeah. Would you like to do the whole lot, Hugo?
No, I'd love to. It'd be a fantastic thing to do the whole thing. But I'd love to. I mean, just talking about it, I've definitely, Japan has been on my list, and I haven't been there, and I'd love to do that. But even that stretch in Europe was fantastic, and traveling by motorcycle is just the best thing, isn't it? That sense of adventure. To me, it's one of the best feelings in motorcycling is when the ferry door starts opening. You've had your night on the ferry or your ferry trip. That's why the tunnel's not as good. That you're on the car deck, and there's a couple of other bikes there, and you're ready to go, and the door starts opening, and you kind of go, here we go. Adventure, here we come. But certainly, riding in Greece was amazing. The crossing the border into Turkey, but I wish I'd gone over the Bosphorus. I'd really like to get to the Caspian Sea. I think, that's only about another 800 or 900 miles, I think, from there. So that'd be all right.
Well, I think you'll agree with me that was a brilliant story. Well done to the pair of yous. I totally enjoyed listening to that. You've made me want to do what you have just sort of summed up by saying, you can't beat an adventure on a bike, can you? You can't beat travelling on a motorcycle. So, yeah, fantastic. Hold your heads up high. I really think you've done something very special there.
Can we just say, if Jamie's watching this, can you get in touch?
Yeah, because we should probably re-emphasise it was Jamie's adventure, and we just did the bits at the beginning and the end, and. Yeah. So yeah, Jamie, give us a call.